As France begins to cautiously open up after the nearly 2-month lockdown, many people are wondering about the long-term impact coronavirus is going to have on French society. And one question that's on many people's minds is to bise or not to bise. Now, la bise is the traditional French way of saying hello and goodbye with one or many kisses. And we've already explored la bise on French Connections. And in case you missed it, well, here's a crash course I filmed with France 24's business editor, Stephen Carroll. This was, of course, before coronavirus, the lockdown, and social distancing.
So these are the rules of doing la bise. Step 1, make eye contact. Step 2, take a step forward. Not too close.
Okay.
And not too far away.
Right.
Just about this distance. Step 3, put your hand on their arm or their upper shoulder.
Okay, I'm gonna go with arm.
And then you move in, applying your cheek to their cheek and making a little kissing noise. Now, in Paris, you start on the left and then you do 2 kisses.
That's really important to know which size. Yeah.
Or else you get into one of these and you don't want to get into one of those. Very important thing, never really kiss the cheek.
Because that's awful.
It's gross. And you also have to make a kissing noise or else it just sounds empty. So, once again. And voila.
Perfect.
And don't forget, practice makes perfect.
Now, with health and hygiene on everyone's minds, people are wondering if the French might just kiss goodbye to this cherished practice. And to talk more about this, let's join our very own Genie Godula. Genie, I saw the cutest scene the other day, 2 girls who clearly hadn't seen each other during the nearly 2-month lockdown, meeting up for the first time, wearing masks, and they just did not know what to do. They were jumping up and down. Clearly they wanted to do la bise to each other, but of course, these days it doesn't seem that safe. Now, old practices die hard because this is a tradition that dates back centuries.
Right. And when you say centuries, it is literally centuries. This dates back to the Middle Ages. First of all, the bise was actually a kiss on the lips between knights as a sign of true friendship. But in the 14th century, when the Italian queen, Marie de Medicis, came to marry the French king, Henry IV, she didn't like that idea of kissing on the lips so much. So she was the one to introduce that idea of kissing on both cheeks. Now, as for the word bise, apparently that comes from Roman times. Back then, there were several different words for several different kinds of kisses, romantic, friendly, etc. But basium was the word that was used for a kiss that was meant to be a sign of courtesy or out of politeness.
And it's not the first time that the bise has gone out of fashion due to health concerns. In fact, it almost disappeared completely in the 14th century because of the plague, which sounds a little bit like these days, and it made a comeback hundreds of years later. And so this was after World War I. And at the time, people in high society kissed each other on the hands and everyone else kissed each other on the cheeks.
The big question now is what kind of effect will this current plague have on the bise in France? I saw a study recently from an employee temp agency that said that 72% of French people will not do the bise with their colleagues when they get back to the office. Now that's twice as many who weren't doing the bise before. Handshakes, though, more common between male colleagues, do seem to be hanging on. The same study said that 66% of men, 2/3, are going to continue shaking hands in the office.
Now, social media has gone crazy with alternatives to la bise, and I thought that I would team up again with Stephen Carroll to explore some of these options.
La bise and social distancing don't go hand in hand, especially when authorities recommend keeping at least 1 meter apart from each other. So what alternatives are there? Perhaps a good old elbow bise, or a foot bise, or hand signs, or a good old high five. Oh wait, no, that won't work. Coronavirus certainly has had an impact on French society and customs, begging the question, will the French wave goodbye to la bise?
You know, Flo, while we're talking about all these cultural shifts in the wake of COVID-19, another victim could be France's beloved summer vacation.
That's right, Jeannie, and summer vacation certainly is sacred here in France. And July and August are the months that are reserved for long vacations in France. And in fact, there are 2 schools of thought here. There are people who go away during the month of July, and they are called les juilletistes. And then you have people who go away during the month of August, and they're called les Haussiens. And these two rival groups cross paths on one fateful weekend, which becomes a chaotic travel dance that's known as le chassé-croisé. Now, people say that perhaps the best time to visit France, and in particular Paris, is during the summer break because all Parisians have left the capital and it becomes kind of like a ghost town, pretty much like what we experienced during the lockdown.
Now, that, of course, may not be the case this year, as there's still a lot of uncertainty surrounding les grandes vacances. As a rule, 3/4 of French holidaymakers tend to stay in France for vacation, but this year they could be joined by the 9 million more who usually go abroad. That, of course, though, is good news for a sector that was hard hit by the virus, tourism.
So where is everyone going to go? Well, experts believe that people are going to be drawn to the French countryside and to France's mountainous regions. After being cooped up inside for such a long time, they want to get some fresh air, and maybe that's why they might avoid France's crowded beaches this year.
Trains should be running by full capacity by then, so that's good news, but there could be many more cars on the roads. In any case, people are going to have to be flexible. There's always the chance the pandemic could flare up again.
Haile Selassie, the last emperor of Ethiopia and creator of the Rastafarian religion, who died in 1975, has left a deep impression on his country.
Les relations internationales et relations africaines sous la direction de l'empereur, c'était vraiment remarquable.
If the Negus was the inspiration behind the African Union, which since his reign has been based in Addis Ababa and which regularly pays homage to him, he has also left a darker legacy. Between his supporters and those who fear the return of an autocratic regime, Haile Selassie's legacy remains divisive. Don't miss the Negus Empire Revisited on France 24 and France24.com.